Hey neighbors, we're back for our third edition of Election 2025 Huntington Matters candidate interviews. I'm June Margolin from Huntington Matters. Behind the camera is our Vice President, Dana Richter, and we have Diane Shaber checking the audio right now, our director and producer. We also have Megan here, our moderator, joining us today as well. So we're very, very excited to introduce you to our next candidate. This is Legislator Thomas Donnelly, that it'll be on the ballot as Thomas, yes, right? Yes, okay, correct. So everybody knows him as Tom. And he is Suffolk County Legislator for District number 17. Thank you. So Tom, tell us about yourself and why you decided to step forward to serve our community as a Suffolk County Legislator.
So good evening, and once again, thank you to Huntington Matters for having me tonight. It's always a pleasure to be here to talk about important stuff. So I've been a county legislator now for 8 years. Prior to that, I was served as a Babylon Town Board councilman for 2 terms for 8 years as well. Prior to that, I was a member of the Town of Babylon Planning Board and also a fire commissioner. So I've had a long public service record. I've been a volunteer firefighter for 41 years. I served in the city of New York for over 30 years with the FDNY. I retired as a lieutenant when I was elected to the county legislature. And for me, I enjoy serving in local government. I've been very privileged to have a long career. And for me, local government is really where the rubber kind of meets the road, so to speak. And I think you can get a lot of work done in a bipartisan way. If you just block out some of the external noise that you hear on many of the cable news channels, you'll find that most local government officials want to work in a cooperative way for the betterment of the residents.
Awesome. What have you accomplished in your elected position that you are the most proud of that directly benefits the community?
So in terms of Huntington, because I have District 17, it's kind of like a puzzle piece district. It has parts of town of Huntington, parts of town of Babylon, and parts of a small piece in town of Isa. In Huntington, I would probably say not one thing, just a couple things. So preserving the farm, it was really important. I think,
the horse farm?
Yes, okay, preserving the horse farm. So I got that started. So that was back in like 2020, 2021. Then the district lines were recut. So that's now District 17. But we got that going along with Supervisor Smith to do the land preservation for that, because it requires county.
Very creative solution.
Yeah, very creative. And it worked out really well. So I am proud of being a part of that. I was glad that Rebecca was able to kind of, finish it off in the last election cycle. Then getting the funding for the Huntington Business District to get the sewer program up and running up along New York Avenue was very important. Getting that funding and it's actually it's a funding it's a budget line now for that project. So that was really important, as well. And then I think obviously public safety, I've been very involved in it, but I think being able to help Tri-CYA, which is right up the road here, which is like a central kind of community group that helps all of the hamlets in the town of Huntington in districts 18, 17, and 16. I'd say like those 3, big items. I'm pretty proud of that. And all of that work I couldn't do without the work of my staff, because we have a really good staff in District 17. They work very hard. Definitely. They're very responsive, and they kind of have their ears to the ground on everything that's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They've helped us a lot with a lot of just general questions, personal things too. You guys have always been there for us, so we thank you for that. What do you have to say to disengaged voters who think their vote doesn't matter, and how will you inspire them to get to the polls? That's her question.
So, no, it's a good question. People are, this is a general statement for me. People I think are starving for moderation. They're tired of people kind of like screaming and yelling at each other, right? They want solutions to problems. So local government is where you get the opportunity to to make sure that the people that you want to represent you, help you, and assist you are in office. That's really what it's about. And it's, people don't like you have presidential election, big voter turnout, governor, maybe a little, but people don't always pay attention to local elections. But some people do, because some things are really important to them, you know, and those are the people that turn out. Those are like the very much civically engaged kind of people, because they're interested in, you know, roadwork projects. They're interested in local public safety. They're interested in parks, local parks. So I would say it's very important to vote in every election cycle, but it's very important to vote in local elections.
Very good answer. All right, magic wand question. If you could guarantee to get exactly what you want right away, what is something you would fix or improve in the town of Huntington, and what is something you never want to make changes to?
So I would say, like just what we talked about earlier, if I could snap my fingers, get the sewer line established up New York Avenue so we could get the Huntington Business District established. You know, one thing that we will never change is preserving some of the open land that we have. You know, in the horse farm, there's a couple other farms around too. Elijah Farm, I think you're familiar with it.
Yeah, wait.
So we've done we've done a lot of work with them, both land preservation and in terms of supporting their festival. That's a really wonderful place. Like you should, everybody should go visit there, because you talk about all the bad things in the world. That's like it's a beacon of good stuff that goes on there. But obviously, you know, redeveloping and helping Huntington Station is probably the most important, I think, you know, to try and kind of work with the town, kind of keep that moving along. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And what is the job description of a Suffolk County legislator, and what is the legislature as a whole responsible for?
So the county legislature was formed in 1970. Quick history lesson. Prior to that was Board of Supervisors. The town supervisors managed county finances. But thought process back then was, and it's still relevant today, that, you know, people should have a county representative. So county health, county public safety, water quality, the sewers. It's a very kind of boring, mundane part, but when you read the county charter, public health, public safety, public works, they're all the responsibilities that fall within the county legislature. So we do a lot. Some of the funding that comes down from the federal government has to pass through the county, so we have to approve it. And then we work cooperatively with the other levels of government. That's, you know, what people want us to do, right?
Yeah.
You know, in terms of trying to get, you know, the funding for the sewer is very important. We keep talking about that. But also, like, a lot of the health permits that are going to be required for the businesses to open up in the new Huntington Business District. So, you know, social services is obviously another very, very important department providing services. And we get funding through some of those budget lines to help agencies like Tri-CYA.
Yeah,
so
that's great. Okay, and then what legislation or initiatives have you sponsored that was adopted?
So I've done a couple small pieces. We're in the minority right now. So the one piece that I'm most proud of is, you know, we had a tragedy a bunch of years back with a young boy, Thomas Valver, and it was a concern about social services and law enforcement not cooperating. So I was able to pass a resolution that embedded a social service worker with the police department special victims unit. I think when I leave, that'll probably be one of the ones that I'll be most proud of.
Definitely much needed for sure. All right, so tell us about this year's Suffolk County Proposition 2. That's when you turn the ballot over, and there's 2 on the ballot. Are we getting 2 or just 1?
Well, the one that I think that you want to talk about is the 4-year terms, right?
Yeah.
So it's a rather, you know, complex kind of like quasi-political issue. So the state legislature and state assembly voted all of the other counties, with the exception of New York City, to move local elections to even years. And the thought process was that the voter turnout would be higher. I don't know that's such a good idea, and I've been pretty consistent in my approach, because I think that local elections still matter, and you want to have them separated out.
Yes, and for us, we will die if we have to interview 35 candidates.
Yes. So to help make Huntington Matters life more easily. So the Republicans actually filed a lawsuit to challenge that, and I voted with them on it just because I felt pretty strongly, and I still do, that everybody has their own personal brand of how they conduct themselves. And I think that being able to separate yourself out, wherever you fall in the political spectrum, being able to separate yourself out as an individual at the local level is very important. I really believe that. But so what the 4-year thing would do, if there's a couple different scenarios that can play out, but it would stop us, the legislature, from having to run like 3 times in the next 4 years. That's the intent of it. So the intent of it is good, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. It's being able to get more done in 4 years is generally a good thing.
Yeah.
But you could also make the argument to give the other side of the coin that having to run every 2 years makes you very accountability to the electorate. So there's positives and negatives on both sides.
Isn't this the only position that's every 2 years in Suffolk County?
Well, countywide, yes, that's the only year. But most local governments are 4 years. State assembly, state senator, they have to run every 2 years.
Right, and I mean, do you feel? I don't want to put my words in your mouth. Do you feel that campaigning every 2 years is a stress, and that maybe without having to do that every 2 years,
well,
it
would get, like the positive would say it would give you the time to get more done.
Yeah.
But I would also make the argument that having to run every 2 years is not really a negative thing, in that you have to be very attentive, very accountable to your voters. You have to stay on top of issues, and you have to see the issues through to make sure that they get done, because people are counting on you, right? They depend on their local elected officials to be there for them. And that's an important part, I think, of local government, is accountability and being accountable to the people, who hired you to represent them.
Agreed. And there's already term limits, right?
Yes, and that's all going to stay. That's not, because that's built into the Suffolk County Charter.
All right, great. All right, thank you. All right, so we've heard a lot about the sewers in Huntington Station. Sorry, my favorite topic. What does that mean for the rest of us who aren't getting hooked up? How can it help us?
So the Huntington sewer connection, particularly the Huntington Station one, which is really LD 16 now, LD 16, LD 18, is similar to a scenario that I have down in Deer Park in North Babylon, in that they want to complete the commercial sewer district first, to try and kind of get the ball rolling, so to speak. Eventually, right, then conceptually and eventually, that the residentials would be tied into that. I know that's not what people want to necessarily hear, but
will we get this in our lifetime?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. But where I live in Deer Park, we don't have sewers neither.
Right.
They were promised sewers in 1971, and they still haven't gotten them. So I would like to try and get sewers to Deer Park before I leave office.
So you have 2 big sewer projects.
I do, yeah. I have Huntington Station, and then I also have Deer Park.
And is Deer Park almost done?
Well, Deer Park, the commercial, very similar to Huntington Station. The commercial sewer line is just getting started.
Oh, it's just getting started.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
So okay. I'm getting them, so I can't relate to this question. Housing and development. Number 1, most common question asked by our residents is, what can the candidates do to bring in more workforce and actually affordable housing for our graduates and seniors, because the affordable housing formula is still out of reach for them? What can our legislators do to encourage developers to build for this underserved group? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, so here's the challenge we have, right, is that sometimes affordable housing is considered like a bad word, and it really shouldn't be considered a bad word, right? So when you're trying to, we all recognize that population has grown significantly on Long Island in both counties. and we have to try and increase the housing inventory. So one of the ways that you have to do that is to be somewhat creative, right? And we don't want to just put high-rise apartments in residential areas because people still want to maintain their suburban quality of life, right? That is really, really important. We can't overemphasize that enough. But there is opportunity to try and increase the housing inventory in different places around the county. You know, we've done it in Babylon and Winange. And you have to have developers, you know, we've passed some legislations that we've tried to make a percentage of the units that are built have to fall within a certain income frame, which is a good thing. That's a good thing, right?
And that's outside of the affordable
Yes, that's outside.
formula.
Yeah. So, for instance, if they were going to get like, if they're going to get IDA, Industrial Development Agency, tax breaks for help to build a project that's going to benefit the community, what are the community benefits, right? Are we going to be able to reserve a certain amount, 5%, 8%, somewhere in there, like, you know, because look, we live in a free market society and a developer is still going to want to make money as he should, right? That's what it's about. And then what are the other community benefits that developer is going to do for the school district, the fire department, youth sports programs? So all that is kind of like, it's all kind of part of the equation. You know, in Melville, I actually commend Ed Smith for wanting to try and do something with some of the Melville buildings. Some of those buildings are vacant. You know, and him and I have spoken a couple of times, and I said, you know, if I can be of some help, you know, our role at the county level would probably be with the sewer hookup. You know, that would be the main thing. But I do give him credit that he's exploring kind of like outside of the box opportunities with an area that's you know, not really utilized.
Right.
But so I think that's a good idea.
And the community there, I mean, I have friends who live there, and there's like no little local anythings for them to go to.
Right.
They gotta go to Farmingdale.
Yep. And that's the other part that I just want to, whenever you do a development project, wherever it is, you have to, this is critically important, you have to have community buy-in. The community, if you try and put something smack down in the middle of a community that the school district doesn't want, the fire department doesn't want, the civic association doesn't want, then it's not going to work. Whatever developer comes in, he's got to work with that community to make sure that his development project becomes part of the fabric of that community. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think it makes sense, right? You can't have a top-down approach. You got to have a bottom-up approach. That's why the boards, the local boards like local zoning, local planning, those are so important, because it's, you know, regardless of what political party is in power, you have local people who are looking at like site plans, and they might say, that's not a good idea, or, you know, whatever it is. So that's why the bottom-up approach to housing is I believe, really firmly believe this is the most important way to go.
Excellent.
I don't know if that makes sense or not,
it does. All right, so many major thoroughfares in Huntington, like Park Avenue, Deer Park Avenue, and Oakwood Road, are county roads that are extremely congested at rush hour. What can be done to alleviate traffic congestion, improve pedestrian safety, especially near schools, and maintain the conditions of these roads, that our community uses daily? Did I kick you or him? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so there's a couple of county roads in Huntington, right? So let's see, there's Oakwood, is a county road. Then at the top end of my district is Deer Park Avenue, right?
Pulaski.
And Pulaski, they're all county roads. So we have more people, we have more cars, right? So obviously we have more people using the roadways. In terms of trying to make the roads bigger, it's always a challenge, right? Because you would have to do property conveyance to try and make the roads bigger. County Public Works, I know, is very aware of Oakwood, and they're aware of Deer Park Avenue. So they're looking at a couple where it's not necessarily, I have an area down in Deer Park that they're looking at on Cormac Road as well. And the engineers are looking at ways to maybe configure them in a little, just a little different way that might help move the traffic along. Pedestrian safety is critically important. So it's one of the things that we focus on as local elected officials. Now you got to know exactly where the pedestrian crossway is going to be, and it's got to be a signal, barriers, the whole 9 yards, because we don't want to put people who are using the roadways to walk in unnecessary danger. That's a very, very important public safety issue. I mean, I can't overemphasize that, because people drive very fast.
Yeah.
They're looking at their devices.
And that's one of the problems on Oakwood, especially.
Yeah, it's just it's a sign of the times, and you know, they do. We're really lucky, you know, in that Inspector Williams is our current commanding officer of the 2nd Precinct. He's incredibly attentive to all of these little things. They have targeted enforcement, and our county highway patrol. They come in, they rove, and it's great. And they'll go into an area, and people who are not obeying the law, they're going to pay the price, as they should, you know. And that's the thing that we got to get everybody to slow down and try and pay a little more attention to the
when they
roadways.
visit, they do about 160 summons.
Yeah, so that highway
seconds.
site team is really, really, really terrific. I can't say enough good things. And then local precinct officers, you know, you'll see them, and they make a very concerted effort to get people to, you know, if we can just get people to slow down. I think that's first and foremost. Everybody's in a rush. Everybody's talking on their phone. You know, we all have places that we have to get from A to B, and yeah, those couple of roads, I would say. So I don't have, Palacios is not my district, but the top end of Deer Park Avenue is, and Oakwood used to be, but is not anymore, but I'm pretty familiar with it.
Very good. All right. Economic development and job growth. Suffolk County has been experiencing brain drain over the past few decades because of the high cost of living, which means our youth graduates are not staying here, and our young adults that are leaving, and then the businesses are leaving too. So what can be done to bring businesses back to Suffolk County so we can grow our community?
Yeah, so it's another like multifaceted kind of problem and multifaceted solution. I think trying to streamline some of the processes in which businesses have to go through to come in would be helpful, and County Executive Romaine and his economic development team are working on that. We are seeing some new businesses come in, particularly along the 110 corridor. I just read Fortunoff is going to take the. You're up on that, right?
Wait, tell me, say that out loud.
Fortunoff is going to take the old record store on Route. So that's a good thing, right? Because it's a high-end kind of place, and they're gonna employ people. We're actually doing pretty good with job growth in terms of getting people to stay. It reverts back to the housing piece as well,
right?
Because young people like my kids can't necessarily go out and buy a house right away, right? That could be several years down the road. So we have to have this bridge in terms of maybe, you know, some type of housing, whether it's, you know, rentals, multifamily housing, things like that. But we just, you know, I keep reiterating myself that, you know, I'm born and bred like you ladies are on Long Island, and, you know, my folks settled here in the early 1950s, and the suburban quality of life is what people still want.
Yeah.
They treasure their schools, they treasure their parks, they treasure their fire department, they treasure all of those. So it's got to be the right fit. But I do think that there's hope for more young people staying, because we are seeing some more bigger corporations kind of come in. And that's the thing where the county plays such an important role, Suffolk County Economic Development, as well as the Industrial Development Agency, because they work well, particularly Eco Development works well with the town supervisors, all of the town supervisors on Long Island. And, you know, they work in concert with one another together, you know, aside from, you know, political parties, they all have the same mission, you know. So the Babylon supervisor is like the Huntington supervisor, like this. They're all dealing with the same kind of issues. So I think that's an important point to make. and that some of the bad politics that you see, particularly, up the food chain from us, doesn't really exist down here. And I did, when I did my Newsday interview, we talked a lot about this, that, being able to work with the other party is a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a bad thing. It's a good,
it's a good thing.
It's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Don't have this political kind of like, whatever you want to call it, or, whatever you want to call it, just be able to work with every level of government. Your job is to try and get stuff done.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that should, help you with your when you go before the voters again, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I would say vote person, not party.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
the people that
And
are
that's
gonna- it doesn't even
exactly,
matter what party it is.
I can look back in my 25, 30-year local government career, and there was great role models on both sides of the aisle, and I said this to Newsday, like, I'm an old school centrist. That's what I am. I'm a pragmatist. Everybody's entitled to their own personal ideologue and beliefs, and as you should, by all means. But at the end of the day, when you're trying to do the people's business, you got to be a pragmatist.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of issues that you're dealing with every day, right?
Yeah. So. Very true. Very true. All right. So we have another. How are we doing on time, Diane?
We're good.
Okay.
15.
So we all recognize that the economy, as well as competition from the digital world, has been tough on local mom and pop businesses. What would you do to help them through these tough times?
So the local stores are like really, really important. We want our malls, but the delis, the local shoe store, the local hair salon. I know on the Babylon side, one of the things that they did is when the American Rescue Plan money came out, they were giving small grants out to local businesses. To kind of just help them along a little bit, particularly during COVID, which I thought was pretty cool. But the same thing that we talk about with the larger corporations is streamlining them to make sure that they can get up and running, helping them to promote their businesses, engaging with the Chamber of Commerce is really important, and just giving them the ability to succeed and grow their business. It's a different world today than I think it was, 5 years ago before COVID. Like, everything's changed, but the small businesses are still the backbone, and it's the fabric of who we are, and just being able to help them on whatever, the other where we kind of come in as local. You can help them with a parking issue or something in front of the store, or getting the parking lot cleaned, or keeping the landlord, holding him accountable to make sure that the building is up and running. All those pieces together help small businesses thrive and run day to day.
And they've been doing an education piece too.
Yes, very much so.
There's a lot of that they're putting out, is classes and things.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, that's great. That's another opportunity. All right, my second favorite, the sewers right now. Crime and public safety. Huntington Matters Neighborhood Watch. We celebrate 11 years.
Congratulations.
In 2 weeks. What public safety priorities do you have, and how would you work with other layers of government to achieve them? And please send us more school resource officers through SCPD. Okay, that's the question.
So who would have thought that sewers is such a fancy word? It's almost like a romantic word when you're having a conversation.
It wakes me up in the middle of the night. Bong, bong, right? And
yeah. But so in terms of public safety in the town of Huntington, like I said, I have the southern end of but I said it already. We're really lucky. We really are. Inspector Williams is great.
He is.
He's so accessible.
Yeah.
You call him any time of the day, night, weekend, and he gets right back to you. The team here in the second precinct does a remarkable job. The uniform people, the anti-gang team that's out there, They really, really do a remarkable job. So this class that just came out is still on field training, and each precinct got a lot of new officers. So there might be an opportunity to increase that number. I think they're still doing some parts of
How many classes a year
their
are they
law.
at now?
So what
Right.
happened was during COVID, and it wasn't really anybody's fault. It's just because there was the space limitations
Right.
with how far apart you could be. The classes were smaller,
Mm-hmm.
so we didn't really hire what we needed to hire. And again, it was through no one's fault. It was just because, you know, some of the COVID restrictions. So now we've been doing big classes. So this was a very big class. There's going to be another big class coming up. So you're going to see a continuation of.
So it's 2 or 3 times a year, right?
Yeah. So
Depending on the
generally they
year.
try and do two to three classes.
Yeah. How many
per
do we
year.
have? I think we got 8 this
Yeah,
time.
so this one around the second precinct got a bunch of new ones, which is a good
because
thing.
we're losing officers to retirement.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I mean,
a
some of
lot,
it is very
yeah.
kind of cyclic, but it's having the school resource office is really
Very
important.
impactful.
But the second precinct, you know, we had a presentation at our last public safety committee from the district attorney, and Suffolk County still rates in, like, I think it's in the top 4 safest counties in the United States of America.
Awesome.
So that's a good thing. That's a
awesome.
good thing. And like I said, we're really lucky here in the second precinct with all the
Well,
great
we
people.
worked hard. We used to be the second highest crime rate
And
when we formed.
and you folks have done a great job in bringing these issues, you know, to everybody's attention. And, you know, you gotta. It's hard to say. Like, you can agree and disagree with policies, but I still think, and you and I have spoken about this on the record, off the record, you know, that some of the bail reform stuff has not been the best thing. The raise the age, you know, you're seeing it's sad to see, but you're seeing younger kids commit violent crimes, oftentimes as part of an initiation thing to a gang, and it's very, very unfortunate. So those are issues I think that we got to continue to work through.
Yeah. And the discovery reform.
Yeah, I mean,
That's hit our
I think
neighborhood
that the
watch.
one thing that we're really fortunate that I've seen in the last couple of years, even with those, even with some of those obstacles, is District Attorney Ray Tierney is really terrific, and he's got an exceptionally incredible team that they think out of the box. They know how to kind of move the chessboard a little bit using federal assets. It's really remarkable to see. And, you know, Suffolk County's in very good hands under his leadership, Errol Toulon's leadership, and certainly County Executive Ed Romain's leadership.
And now you just gave a shout out to a different political party.
Well, that's just, you know.
But that shows you.
But that's the case.
Yeah, like, I'm not.
For the job.
Yeah, I'm not going to change. You know, I only have a few more years left here in the county
Let it all hang out.
county legislature. You know, and when I came here, I said that I would be very honest. I would be forthright. I would work with everybody, and it's just something I'm actually proud of it that I've been able to do it in a kind of constructive, bipartisan way without acrimony. You know, it's okay to disagree. It's okay. You can disagree with somebody, right? They're not your enemy. You're just disagreeing with them on this issue, right?
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes we get caught up in that, and I always kind of just say, like, that we could just turn the volume down a little bit. Like, you know, we would get you could get a lot of work done, you know.
My favorite thing is when they make stuff up, because the project by itself on its own merits, there's not enough there's plenty, you know, you can disagree with this. Why do we make up all this
It's
other
okay.
stuff?
I just think that there's more good in public service than there is bad.
Yeah.
And if you have the ability to transcend political party, and you saw it over the historically, you know, I'm sorry, we've got to get moving along.
It's her
But
fault.
it's okay. But if you go back in history, Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, just how they work, like that kind of style, I think is what America is like starving for, you know? So.
Okay, so public health and social services, the opioid crisis, mental health services, and support for vulnerable populations are significant countywide issues. How will you ensure that Huntington residents have sufficient access to county-run public health resources, addiction services, and social safety net programs?
Yeah, so it's like really important stuff, right?
Yeah.
You can't, like, overemphasize it enough. So we'll just try and take a couple little pieces of that. So social services is kind of like the unsung hero in county government. They work really hard. CPS workers, Medicaid workers, the entire crew works really, really hard. And making sure, and again, it's a complex environment, right? Because there's the county department of social services, there's the school district, there's the family unit, whatever the family unit is, all of those things together, and then trying to make sure, to your point, that the most vulnerable are getting the services that they need. So where does the local county legislator come in? When you have groups like Tri-CYA that are doing remarkable work in after-school programs, identifying, individual kids who might need help, then they get that child to social services and we get them more help, right? So there's not a global footprint for this. I really believe this, and I saw this in town government when I first started. There's not a global footprint for this. You have to help one person at a time. That's how you have to do it.
Right.
You got to help one person. You have to help the person that's in front of you. I think I'm making sense, right?
Yeah,
That kind of makes sense.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important. But again, we've improved our SNAP program and how the SNAP benefits are being distributed. So far, we haven't seen like a reduction in terms of state dollars or federal dollars coming in, which is important. And really being able, as the local elected officials, the county legislature, being able to support the Department of Social Services and all of the nonprofits that are doing the work is really what our role is. It's like to just kind of help each of these agencies, try and get them, like I said, the funding from the budget, and be supportive of them. And so here, Tri-CYA is really very much in the South Huntington area, is really, I think, like the blueprint, that they do a lot of really good work. And obviously there's some other, Pastor Danny's group down the road.
Today.
Yeah, he does incredible work. We try and get him fun. He's great. I mean, he's such a wonderful guy. He does really incredible work in the community. And some of these smaller groups in the South Huntington area, Centerport, kind of Comac area, where you're trying to get them the support and the funding that they need.
That's great. All right, environmental stewardship and county parks. Suffolk County manages important natural resources and parks within Huntington, such as Quandary Hall and West Hills Park. How will you advocate for the protection of our regional environment and secure funding for the maintenance and improvement of our county parks for the benefit of all residents?
So West Hills, hopefully, I think we're there, right? I think it's going to be a horse farm forever. That's a good thing. So Quandary Hall is in legislative Bontempi's area. Look, it's a county historical site.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility. Right? It is.
Owned by the county.
It's owned by the county. So there's a lot of factors into it. It's an old place. It's really old.
And it was left
for a long time. It's got a lot of natural beauty. It's in a pristine location. There's a lot of opportunity to make it nice and, something that will be treasured, similar to like the Vanderbilt.
Right.
But these are big ticket items.
Right.
And we have a big county. So it's where can we find the funding for it to help make it the historic landmark that we want it to be. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. I would just assure all of the supporters of Quandary Hall that the current legislators, 16, 17, and 18, are unified in making sure that we're going to try and take care of it to the best that we can. We're lucky right now. We have a very good team in place in legislators 16, 17, and 18 with myself, Rebecca, and Stephanie. We all work well together, different parties, but we work well together.
Okay, very good. And then this is the last question. How would you take advantage of technology and new communication strategies to increase transparency in county government and make it easier for busy residents to stay informed and participate in the decision-making process. Have you heard of anything cool and innovative in your out and about?
So you're talking to a gray-haired guy who grew up in the 1970s. I had a rotary phone then. That was communicate. So yeah, there's a couple things. You know, several of the apps that we have that we're using, and I'm not a overly technological person, but some of the apps that we have where you can report issues like roadway issues are pretty helpful, I think. I do still think, though, technology is important. It is important, and these apps are important. But getting connected to your local government office is still the best way to try and address a problem. So I left my phone in my car on purposely. But people go right to social media. I'm sure you see this on your page as well.
Yeah.
And they do it in some of the other communities that I represent as well. They'll post something in one of the community forums. So I monitor those pages. I never post in it because, you could go in there and automatically it's going to become a very charged political kind of comment. But I do monitor it. And I'll private message somebody, hey, it's Tom, call my office. Here's the phone number. Here's my email address. Here's my cell phone number. Call me and we'll try. That is still the best way to try and this is where I think local elected officials are made or broke, right? If you're not responsive to people like that, they're gonna remember that as they should, right? So, and I tell people all the time, the best way to help me to help you is to get in touch with me personally or get in touch with my staff.
So are these posts?
I mean, it's kind of old school. It's kind of old school, I think.
It definitely is.
But it is still the best way, because there's so much social media, there's so many platforms out there that, you can't monitor every one. Probably on my phone, I have 7 or 8 different community groups that, I scroll through it and I do the best I can to keep an eye on what's going on. But if you text me to my phone and I give my cell phone, you have my cell phone number. I give my cell phone number at every community meeting I go to. Just text me the issue. I'll get you connected to my staff the next day and they'll be on it,
So sorry, I keep kicking you.
That's okay.
We both like to stretch our legs, apparently. Quick question is that when you see those posts in the community groups, are they usually general, does anybody know how to help?
Sometimes
you
it's general, yeah. Sometimes
it's pointed the county.
Sometimes it's general. They'll be complaining about an issue, but you're not going to get that issue resolved.
So they don't even know that it is for the county.
And I tell when I go in and I'll message the person, or even I'll say, hey, contact me. Give me specific particulars. Specifics. Address, location, explain the issue so that we can explain it. And like I said, almost all of the county legislative offices operate like this. We have really good staff people. They know exactly what levers to pull in county government, what department to call to try and get somebody help. That's the best way for it to run, I think. Look, the social media stuff is important because, you'll monitor, you'll see something, something's going on. And, law enforcement, it's incredible how they use it. They pick off, stuff that's going on, particularly quality of life stuff. You'll hear about some of these parties, which is a serious quality of life issue. Not to go off topic too far, I know we're running out of time, but and this is where good elected officials, there'll be a party that I'll hear about, or even my staff saw on social media. I text Inspector Williams and Supervisor Smith in the same group text, and they're on it. Second Police is on it. Town of Huntington Public Safety's on it, and that's the way you want government to work.
We have your number. We have everybody's number right on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
From all the letters, you get the letter.
Being able to get in touch with your local elected officials is, I think, the singular most important thing that residents can do.
Right, and then it actually enhances your quality of life as a resident.
Of course.
Because now you're connecting, you're learning more about what's available, how things work. Tom, thank you so very much for spending your time with us.
My
this
pleasure.
evening.
Always coming, always happy to come and chat with Huntington
yeah.
Matters. Like, you know.
So, you guys, if you live in the Tom's district, you got to get out and vote. November 4th is the in-person voting. Early voting starts October 25th, goes to November 2nd. Dix Hills Fire Department and Huntington Library Station Branch.
Huntington Station.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct,
exactly.
correct. Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I have a question. Okay.